One of the most vital election records to analyze in determining whether systemic election fraud is present is called a cast vote record summary. Experts will study the record to see if the sequence of votes being cast by voters reflects a natural pattern, and whether it adheres to the law of large numbers. The law of large numbers governs scientific polling and many quality control practices.
Maricopa County has over 2 million registered voters. Someone's running for office, they do not make 2 million phone calls and say, do you mind telling me who you plan to vote for? They make 400 phone calls at random. Candidate says, well, I want a more accurate poll. Okay, call 1,000 people. You don't have to call 2 million people because the sample is random. It doesn't matter which 1,000 you pick, as long as there was no pattern to the way you picked it. One of the citizen auditors gave an interview and she said the box of ballots that I went through to inspect was 7 Biden, 1 Trump, 7 Biden, 1 Trump, 7 Biden, 1 Trump, 7 Biden, 1 Trump. People do not line up that way at a polling place.
Transfer that concept to elections. An election is a poll. The ballot that you're marking shows your preference for a certain candidate. So you would expect to see within the CVR the same phenomena that you see in polling, which is some variability in the beginning and then a flatlining. Instead, what we're finding is a spike for a predetermined candidate and a linear drive towards a predetermined set point.
And I looked at the curve and I said, that's a PID controller. So what's a PID controller? Well, it's proportional integral derivative. It is the simplest closed loop feedback system. That graph reminded me very much of an airplane coming in for a landing when the runway is completely fogged in. Then the pilot pushes a button that says Cat 3 Auto Land, and the plane gets the beacon and says, where's the start of the runway? Aim for it at a 3-degree glide slope. And there's a strong gust of wind, and it bumps the plane's nose up. Did the computer know there was going to be a strong gust of wind to bump the nose up? No. But it knows it's not on a 3-degree glide slope, and if it continues this direction, it's not going to land at the start of the runway, and it says, decrease attitude, and get back on the 3-degree slope to hit the start of the runway. Let me put two races side by side, which are completely different in every respect. So 2 different counties, Pima County, Maricopa County. 2 different machines, ES&S and Dominion. 2 different races. We'll take county sheriff and president. That means 2 different pools of voters. 2 big peaks, 2-to-1 slope, 25% of the way, there was a little bump, and it tracked on down. In Pima County, 16 of the 17 races were won by the Democrat. 1 race was won by the Republican with exactly the same curve. But what this tells me is that at the bottom, all of the election software is the same.
In fact, over 400 cast vote records have been analyzed in over 300 counties across the country, and we're finding the same phenomena. A spike for a predetermined candidate, a linear drive towards a predetermined set point that violates the law of large numbers, that is predictive and therefore impossible. How is it that Congress routinely holds a meager 25% approval rating, yet the candidates win election after election? It appears all have booked a flight on the PID Express. Destination victory is all but guaranteed when you use the proprietary black boxes. We have seen the PID control in the cast vote records across the country, and voters want examination of those records in their respective counties. Despite federal law requiring production of this vital record, clerks across the country are refusing to produce them to the public. In some cases, the records are being tampered with or destroyed. But another source of data has emerged proving the use of a PID control, and the algorithm is seen in all 50 states. Election night reporting data from a company known as Seidel. Look at Trump and divide his votes by Biden's votes. You have a Trump to Biden ratio. And when you do this, a picture will leap out at you. Think of your thermostat. You want to set your temperature in your house to 70 degrees. So you crank that furnace. So look, it's going to get to that set point. And what happens is over time, it reaches the set point, it's got to make a correction and come back. It's got to stay at 70 degrees. So you can actually hear your air conditioning come on and off, right? Now let's look at elections. This is the Trump to Biden ratio when we're looking at election night in Georgia. What you need to know here is that that set point means victory for Biden. If Trump gets above it, he wins. But if it comes back to that set point, he loses. So we see Biden vote injections, and then we see an impossible arrangement of data throughout election night. So what's going on right here is to maintain this set point, just like you want to maintain that 70 degrees in your home, they have to have 50-50 ratios. So when you have a batch of votes that come in from election night reporting, guess what the ratio was? 50-50. But we got to keep it there. We got to maintain the set point. So the next batch of votes comes in, it's 50-50. 50-50. 50-50. How many batch sets in a row do you think happened in Georgia? 55 batch sets in a row at 50-50 to maintain that flat line to bring it in.
Wow.
But over time, you need to drive down with greater precision to make sure that you definitely get the set point. And so what happens is over time, we saw over 90 batch sets of votes where Trump got 49.9% versus 50.1% from Biden.
Wow.
In a row, over 90 reports from this societal data that we were able to monitor in a row. Folks, you can't out-cheat or out-vote the machines. It's gonna find its set point. It's pretty horrific. Would we all agree that elections are supposed to be additive processes? So each interval report, you would expect to see more votes, not deletions. More votes, not deletions. Well, look at this real-time video of the Edison reports. You got total votes at the top, you got in-person votes, and then only have mail-in votes. And look how it pauses, and there's oscillation and deletions. This is the algorithm trying to figure out the math problem that is you. And if I let this video play to its completion, you'll find out it wasn't just Pennsylvania. We've got 3 counties in North Carolina. We got 3 counties in Georgia. And guess what? In Georgia, we know for a fact that CITL directly contracts with the state to get that data. So you should not see any deletions. You should see no oscillation.